Hey everyone, welcome. If you are thinking about making a move to Bend, Oregon, this may be one of your first stops, so we won't waste any of your time and we will get right into it. Now, Bend is the best place on earth to live if you enjoy the great outdoors. Now, there are a lot of other great outdoorsy cities out there in the country, no doubt, but Bend has such a wide variety of different outdoor activities that no matter what you're into, we've got the best of the best here in Central Oregon. Let's briefly talk about all the things you can do here. Hiking, camping, fishing, fly fishing, hunting, boating, other water sports like kayaking, paddleboarding, whitewater rafting, floating the river, trail running, rock climbing, golfing, bird watching, snow sports, all kinds. Skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, snow camping, snowmobiling, sledding, tubing, frisbee golf, pickleball, stargazing, caving, spelunking, rock hounding, horseback riding, mountain biking, road biking, ATVing, ice skating, backpacking. I mean, whew, is that enough? I just can't even think about everything that you could possibly do here. Just, if you can do it outdoors, you can do it here in Bend. And the amazing thing is all the big ones that I mentioned have world-class reputations here. If you're interested enough to be checking out this video, you probably already know about one of the things that we've already talked about. That may be why you're even watching this, or maybe why you're thinking about Bend, Oregon in general. Maybe you like the fishing. Maybe you like the golf. The golf, right? Maybe it's the hiking or the rock climbing, whitewater rafting. I mean, it's probably the skiing and the snow sports, right? These are all just world-class activities that you can do right here in Central Oregon. But let's talk about the rest of what it's actually like living here. The city. Bend is sitting right at 100,000 people. We are growing up, folks. But what is really cool is because of the topography of the state and where we're located, we're still very isolated from all of the other major cities. A lot of times suburbs of other major metropolitan cities have populations of 30 to 100,000 people. But again, they're next to a major city. There's no urban sprawl going on here. It's just us. We are the big city. And we're really not that big anyway. You can still drive through the entire town in like 10 minutes. Can you imagine? It's still small enough that you see people everywhere you go. If you go out shopping, or you hike the river trail, or you're grabbing a bite to eat at a restaurant. But it's also big enough that we have all kinds of different options for shopping and dining and entertainment. In my opinion, we have officially arrived on the map over the past 5 to 7 years. Nowadays, it seems like as soon as we hear about a new, trending store or something over in the valley, a few months later, we're getting one here in Bend ourselves. We've got a crumble cookie. And Anthropology's coming soon, and Chris Stapleton is coming this summer. Yeah, we got it going on. But also what's really amazing about this community are the people, because it's not just a bunch of chain stores and franchise restaurants here. We are actually very much an independent business-minded community. We have tons of local businesses, startups. I mean, you've probably heard about all the breweries we have here, right? We're like the microbrew capital of the world. And the community always seems to rally and support those local businesses. We support locals, and when something catches on, whether it's a new brewery or a new ski shop or even a new kind of water bottle, Bend is so trendy that everyone jumps on, and thus the unique culture of Bend continues to morph forward. Now, I know to a certain degree that happens everywhere, but here it's something special. We used to joke, 10 years ago that in order to live in Bend, you had to have a Subaru and a paddleboard and an Nalgene water bottle. And it's funny because nowadays, in order to be considered a Bendite, you have to have a Sprinter van, an electric bike, and a Cotopaxi coat. I don't know. The weather. Okay, let's talk about the weather for a minute. The easy way to explain it is high desert. Desert, like no rain. You see, the Cascade Mountain Range divides the state kind of in half. Everything over on the east side is rainy. That's what you think about Portland, Seattle, all that kind of stuff up and down the valley. Well, the Cascade Mountain Range actually acts like a barrier to entry for all of those clouds. So everything on the east side of the state is actually dry and arid and deserty. What this means is we get over 300 days of sunshine. We get very little rain, and we get nice, warm, dry, beautiful dry summer days in the mid to upper 80s. Then in the winter, because it is cold and we are right next to the mountain, we do get snow. But what's funny is, although we do get snow in town, it's not that much. It'll only snow a few inches at a time, and it melts away pretty quickly. Now, quite literally 20 minutes up the road at Mount Bachelor, there could be like 100 inches in the winter. Even in the 3 to 5 miles from one side, the east side of Bend, to the west side of Bend, there can be a pretty substantial difference in the amount of snowfall. It snowed 2 inches on one side of town and 6 on the other. And occasionally, maybe every 10 years or more, we do get a pretty heavy storm and we'll get a foot or more in town. But most of the time, it's just a couple inches here and there, just enough to make the holidays feel nice and special. The rest of the seasons are awesome. Full seasons, like you would read about in a textbook. Beautiful fall colors, April showers giving way to May flowers, the classic stuff. Although I will say that spring is the most unruly of seasons. You know that meme about hold my beer? Central Oregon will show you all 4 seasons in 15 minutes. It's good at that. The airport. Let's talk about the airport for a second. Now, one of the greatest things about Bend in this area is that we are so remote. We're like 3 hours from the nearest big city, which is Portland, right? You have to drive over a mountain pass. I mean, in the summer, it's fantastic and beautiful, but in the winter, it can be snowy and treacherous. My point is that sometimes, if you're in such a remote area, you're gonna have to drive a couple hours to get to the nearest airport. But not here. Here, the Redmond airport is just perfect. It's a 17-minute drive from Bend, and it has connecting flights to almost every major city on the western half of the country. LA, San Fran, Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake, Phoenix, and even Denver if you need a connection that'll get you east. They are constantly expanding and improving the airport, and we are so lucky to have such a convenient option right nearby. Wait times are minimal, TSA checkpoints are fast and hassle-free. You won't believe me unless you see it for yourself. It's cute. Just the perfect, tiny, cute little airport that's easy to get to and easy to manage. Amenities. Now, one of the other things that gets overshadowed by all of the amazing outdoor recreational things you can do here in Central Oregon are the actual amenities that you can do here in town. I'll go ahead and say that we have one of the very best parks and recreation districts in the entire country. And they have their hands in almost everything recreationally speaking. We have abundant fitness centers, multiple aquatic centers, a wintertime ice rink, a whitewater park in the Deschutes River, including a surf wave, and just about any kind of class or aerobic activity that you could possibly want. And then the parks. We have some of the absolute most stunning parks here in Bend. Along the riverfront, out in the forests, sports parks, playground parks, naturescape parks, and the pure abundance. With 80-ish parks in the city limits alone, you can easily access one from almost any neighborhood in the city. Then the trails. There's a trail system that runs along all of the canals here in Bend. Oh, by the way, those are pretty cool too. We've got all these canals that supply irrigation to the farm, but they all run through Bend. So it actually is really cool. It makes it seem like there are more rivers running through Bend than there actually are. Anyway, the point is, the trails hit all of the canals and they run almost entirely along the Deschutes River. There are just so many recreational things that you can do in town that you almost don't need the rest of it out of town. But of course, you do. Cost of living. If you continue to check out some of my other videos, and I sincerely hope you do, in fact, right now would be a really great time to ask you to subscribe, hit the little bell notification, and then go ahead and smash the like button as well. We talk about all things recreation, real estate, and current events here on this channel, and we put out videos every single week so everyone's informed. Thank you. Anyway, you'll learn that I don't really like to pull punches here. It's not always rainbows and sunshine. We have regularly called out things here on this channel that are cause for concern. For example, having such an incredible Parks and Rec district does come at a great burden to taxpayers. Or sometimes we talk about new restrictions that are being forced in place on short-term and long-term rentals and some of the potential pitfalls that could be associated with that. Or in this particular case, housing prices have increased so dramatically that they're actually pricing out lower to middle wage earners and consequently hurting the economy here. Now, I wouldn't say that the cost of living here is super crazy high, like in some California-ish places, but I would agree that the cost of living here is high and with no real end in sight. So that is something to watch out for as you start looking at Bend as your potential relocation destination. But then again, something else you could look at are the views. Oh my gosh, I almost totally forgot to talk about the views here. The views are stunning and they're spectacular. I did mention earlier about their weather blocking abilities, but what I failed to mention is that they're right there in your face. You see them every day. Got Mount Bachelor, Broken Top, the Three Sisters Mountains, and they're all visible from almost anywhere in Bend, or in Central Oregon, really. And let me tell you something, one of my favorite lines, because it's true, these views never get old. The future. What's in store for Bend's future? Well, Obviously, growth. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in this paradise that I've just spent the last 10 minutes describing, right? But what kind of future is it going to be? Well, fortunately and unfortunately, there is actually a residential housing constraint on growth. So we can't just sprawl outwards. We have to maintain our growth within a very tight, constricted urban growth boundary. Now this is good because we can't simply, encroach upon the public lands and can't simply, like I just mentioned, sprawl out everywhere. But this also comes at a cost. Literally, as we build more density, the cost of housing goes up, and that makes Bend a very expensive place to live. Yard sizes are becoming almost non-existent. You can almost reach out your window and touch your neighbor, in most cases. But the good news is the great outdoors is only minutes from your doorstep. And again, growth will continue. Too many people want to come here, so the demand for housing will always be high. And for the same reason that people want to come here, nobody wants to leave either. New construction will mainly be responsible for housing all of our new residents for years to come. And that's just the housing outlook. With population growth comes economic growth. New businesses, new retail, new medical. Heck, Oregon State University's Cascades campus is always growing. There is a lot of potential growth coming to Central Oregon in the future, and this growth will be felt in many ways. Thanks so much for watching, and again, we would love to have you with us on our channel, so consider subscribing. We try to bring value each and every time we release a video, so please smash the like button, leave a comment, and we'll see you over in the next video. Cheers.